to seize the occasion to advance a workers' agenda. Labor makes the country run. Labor should run the country. We acknowledge that gathering takes place on Indigenous land, including the unceded territories of the Mississaugas of the New Credit, the Windot and Haudenosaunee people. We do more than honor the First Nations. We join in the fight for justice, recognizing that there can be no real reconciliation without restitution. That entails seizing the assets of the big resource corporations and returning them to the commons. This rally is sponsored by Socialist Action and is endorsed by the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, Canadian Federation of Students, Ontario Coalition Against Poverty, ACORN, Association of Community Organizations for Reform, NOW, Greens Inspiration, Queer Ontario, Louis Riel Bolivarian Circle, Latin America and Caribbean Solidarity Network, Spring Socialist Magazine, Fight Back, the No Pride and Policing Coalition, the NDP Socialist Caucus, and the Workers' Action Movement. Woo! We are here as well strongly in solidarity with the pro-Palestine restaurant, Food Vendors, located on Bloor Street just west of Dufferin, which was vandalized with a brick shattering its front window on September the 2nd. Shame! The JDL terrorist group earlier sprayed the shop windows and is also suspected in this latest attack. We say hands off, Food Vendors. Viva, viva Palestine! Viva, viva Palestine! My name is Elizabeth Weiss, and I'm a retired member of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, Federal Treasurer of the NDP Socialist Caucus, and a leading member of Socialist Action, and your chair for the rally. I hope you enjoy it. Please take the opportunity to look at some literature, describe to our monthly newspaper, Socialist Action, the best publication of its kind in North America, in my opinion anyway. If at any time you would decide you would like to join us, please fill out the form at the display table, visit our website at www.socialistaction.ca, or call us at 647-986-1917. And now, it's my honor to call on a comrade who will lead us in song. Comrade Emily Sayers is a music grad student, a member of the Public Service Alliance that represents teaching assistants at Wilfrid Laurier University, a union local that she helped to organize last fall. Emily is a member of the national leadership of Socialist Action. She will lead us now in singing the great labor anthem, Solidarity Forever.
All right, hello all. Thank you so much for coming. Now, I invite you all to sing along, and if you don't know the words, you'll pick up the chorus pretty quickly. When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Is there aught we hold in common with the greedy parasite who would lash us into serfdom and would crush us with his might? Is there anything left to us but to organize and fight? For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. It is we who plowed the prairies, built the cities where they trade, dug the mines and built the workshops, endless miles of railroad laid. Now we stand outcast and starving midst the wonders that we've made, but the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the us strong. We're the women of the union in the forefront of the fight. We know about women's issues, we know about women's rights. We're prepared to stand for freedom, we're prepared to stand our ground. Women make the union strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. Last time with feeling. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
Solidarity! 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 Solidarity!
Rob, did you do the mic?
Well, clean it. Oh, he did. Okay.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. Comrade Kurt Young is the Socialist Action Organizer in Peel Region and is part of the national leadership of Socialist Action. He is a member of the Sheep Local 30. Last November, Kurt was one of the 2 members of the Workers' Action Movement who ran for top positions in the Ontario Federation of Labour. He and Barry Convoy got 36% of the vote of delegates at the OFL. So please, warmly welcome brother and comrade, Kurt Young.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Sisters and brothers, comrades and friends, Labor Day is not May 1st, but every day is a good day to fight for workers' agenda. Isn't this a good day to defend the right to strike for safe and a healthy working conditions? Isn't this the right time to smash racism, sexism, homophobia, and police brutality? As Elizabeth said, I'm a building trades worker, and I'm sick of seeing reports of a noose hanging at a construction site. I'm angry that black and brown students in Peel are disproportionately suspended, expelled, or pushed into dead-end courses of study. I'm sick of reports that black people are far more likely to be arrested, charged, shot, killed by Toronto police. I am sick of the fact that racialized workers, especially women delivering frontline services, are prime victims of the pandemic. Working people demand an end to the conditions that foster sickness and inequality, an end to the destruction of the environment, and an end to big business. Before COVID-19, the public sector was under relentless attack. Job security was disappearing. The rulers spent billions of dollars for wars in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, but not any for clean water in indigenous communities. And wads of cash for corporate buyouts, but none to home the homeless. Today, the world is reeling from economic depression. It is teetering on the brink of climate catastrophe and nuclear holocaust. The new Cold War is getting hotter. Its front line stretches from the Baltic Sea to the Persian Gulf, from Venezuela to Palestine, from Washington to Beijing. 1% of the population controls over 50% of the world's wealth. In the face of growing inequality and poverty, Canadian bank and mining CEOs reward themselves with multi-million-dollar salaries. We have a severe housing crisis. Robots are replacing workers. Cops get away with murdering black, brown, indigenous, and mentally ill people. Where is the justice for Regis Korshinsky-Paquettes?
Shame. Justice for Regis!
We are inundated by a steady stream of lies from Prime Minister Trudeau, and not just about the We Charity scandal, but on climate change, indigenous rights, electoral reform, taxation, civil liberties, and military spending. Trudeau's agenda is the same as Stephen Harper's agenda, only behind a cloud of marijuana smoke. On matters of imperialist war, pipelines, and trade, Trudeau's capitulates to Trump. So the working class is fighting back. We are inspired by the mass protest against killer cops, by the campaign to raise the minimum wage, and by the actions of young workers fighting for job security and a decent livelihood. We draw inspiration from Idle No More, from Black Lives Matters, and from the climate justice movement. It's time that working people reject labor concessions and remove those union officials who keep the capitalist system going. It's time to rise up and break the chains that bind us, to a system rooted in repression, war, eco-disaster, and untold suffering. Socialist Action is committed to grassroots democracy, the United Front. You can see it in the NDP Socialist Caucus, in the Workers' Action Movement, and in campaigns of solidarity with Venezuela and Cuba, and in the fight against Sug Ford. SA initiated the cross-country Days of Action for Palestinian Rights in May 2019, and the online Day of Action to demand break the siege in Gaza and no annexation of the West Bank in May 2020. We say hell no to the conservative movement in the US and Canada trying to deprive women of the right to choose. Women's reproductive rights are here to stay. We demand disarm, disfund, disband the police, free public transit, tax the rich, free post-secondary education, fund human needs, not military and wars. Hands off Venezuela. Viva, viva Palestina!
Viva, viva Palestina!
Raise the minimum wage to $20 an hour for good jobs and a living income for all. For an eco-socialist Green New Deal, rent freeze now. No COVID evictions.
Abolish landlords!
And provide quality housing and child care for all. None of these demands can be won and secured without a workers' government. An NDP government would be a small step forward. But to lead the fight for a real workers' government, we need a revolutionary workers' party. If you want to change the world, now is the time to get directly involved. We warmly invite you to join Socialist Action. Happy Labor Day. Workers' power!
Thank you, Kurt. Okay, the next speaker, I'm proud to say, comes from my union, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. Which maybe I'm a little biased, but I think it's the most militant and democratic union in Canada, maybe even in North America. So Brother Kaiser Maroof is the president of the Toronto local of CUPW, so please welcome Brother Kaiser.
Brothers, sisters, and comrades, first I want to acknowledge that we are on unceded indigenous territory. Colonialism has caused great harm, and part of our struggle is to dismantle and its close cousins, which is capitalism and neoliberalism. Sisters, brothers, and comrades, I would like to salute all my postal workers, sisters and brothers who make sure that all the public is served. I also like to salute all frontline workers, many of them who are women and racialized people who have been putting their lives and their health on the line every day in order to serve public. I especially want to thank to those who keep us fed, who took care of our health, who take care of our children, who deliver needed goods to us. It is we, the workers, not the corporation, who are ensuring that we get through this pandemic, COVID-19. Sisters, brothers, and comrades, on this Labor Day, we need to remind each other why we must continue to fight for our right. Not only the rights of unionized workers, but the right of every worker in this province and in this country. This pandemic has put in sharp relief on ongoing injustice that the capitalism and the state, shame on them. Shame. We must fight, and we must be heard. We must insist that a post-pandemic recovery must be based on justice, not be based on profit and corporate greed.
Damn right.
Canadian Union of Postal Workers, we are still angered and dismayed that's being legislated back to work twice.
Shame!
And we are being held hostage by the government.
Shame!
We will continue to fight for all unionized workers and every workers to legitimate the right to strike and bargain for a real collective agreement. We want to make sure a democratic system that ensures that workers' rights are protected and respected. Let's also remember that our fight for dignity and respect produces results. After 20 years of a struggle, Canadian Union of Postal Workers, we finally got the pay equity of rural RSMC brothers and sisters, and most of them are women. Sisters, brothers, and comrades, capitalism is also responsible for the gig economy, and we fought against that. We organized Fedora workers and couriers in the midst of this pandemic, and we were awarded by a decision of the Ontario Labour Board that Fedora foodsters could be unionized. This is first in Canada. All the Fedora quickly exited the Canadian landscape. We have succeeded to setting a precedent and getting a $3.4 million settlement for the gig economy workers. CUPW is committed to helping non-unionized workers by creating more avenues so the workers can join. Brothers and sisters, we fight against the racism. In past few months, we have clearly shown that the black people are being targeted by the police in US and Canada.
Shame!
Police in the States have shot and killed several other black people. Police in Canada have also used police brutality and lethal force on members of black community, on indigenous people and minority people. Shame on them.
Shame!
Brothers and sisters and comrades, the message is very clear. We want to live next to each other. This planet has room for everybody. We want a life free of oppression and slavery. We want a life without a classism. Today we must all unite. We must all unite against those corporate greed. Remember, greed and profit has poisoned human soul. It inserted by the corporate mongers. They tell us they control our mind, They want what we need to see. They want what need to read. They want what need to believe in. Shame on them.
Shame!
We need humanity more than machinery. We need a brave, strong, universal solidarity. We need to stop the system that makes people suffer, a system of hatred because of your color, race, and religion. Shame on the government.
Shame!
Please do not lose your hope. The boss always fear the solidarity of the workers. Belong to the workers.
Power to the workers!
The power taken from workers must be returned to the workers. The profit and corporate greed must be stopped. Brothers and sisters, last but not the least, you the people have the power. Let's have the power to change the ruling class. Power to change the system. Power to make life free and beautiful.
Yes!
Sisters and brothers and comrades, let's promise in the name of democracy, in the name of freedom, let us use the power. Let us all be united. Let us become the ruling class. Let us become the ruling class. Let us create a world where workers will be the ruling class. Solidarity. Solidarity.
Good speech.
Thank you, brother. Our next speaker is Kayla Weiler, the Ontario representative of the Canadian Federations of Students. The CFS is known for its Drop Tuition Fees campaign, which is particularly pertinent in these COVID-19 times. So please welcome Kayla.
Rob.
Comrades! My name is Kayla Weiler. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the National Executive Representative for the Canadian Federation of Students, Ontario. I have the pleasure of representing 350,000 students at colleges and universities across this province, and on behalf of Canada's oldest and largest student organization, and the only one that fights for a free, public, and accessible post-secondary education system. Student-worker solidarity is more important now than ever. As we return to classes this week under unprecedented circumstances, there is an urgent need to reimagine our post-secondary education system. Decades of underfunding have exacerbated the issues that students will be facing as they head back to either virtual classrooms or physical classrooms, and where professors and instructors are under-resourced and they're overworked, underpaid, and students are paying far too much for a system that provides far too little of support.
Shame!
Before the COVID-19 pandemic, students across Ontario experienced the single largest cut to the Ontario Student Assistance Program, a total cut of $670 million.
Shame!
Students were left to having to choose between rent and groceries, having to take on private bank loans, and for some, having to leave their studies altogether. Now students are returning to classes after a summer of job insecurity, a fall semester of job insecurity, inadequate financial support, and a canceled federal government support program that left tens of thousands of students behind, including international students who were not even eligible for the program.
Shame!
We deserve better. Students are being priced out of their education after decades of underfunding, and we are united with staff and faculty to demand better working conditions because their working conditions are our learning conditions. What this work looks like is better joint health and safety committees that actually listen to the workers on our campuses, and more funding for the health standards after decades of austerity cuts to our campus communities and our campus workers. This past year, Doug Ford tried to defund our students' unions. He tried to defund the Canadian Federation of Students through the Student Choice Initiative. And what we did with workers standing together in solidarity is we fought back and we won! After this major win with the work of solidarity between students across the country and workers across the country, we're going to continue to fight for students for a free education system for all, and that includes international students. What we've learned from this crisis is that education is too expensive. Education should never have a price tag. Education should be free, and the youth will not pay for this crisis that we've seen in our post-secondary education system, and the youth will not pay for the crisis of capitalism. This week, we're putting that solidarity into action as we unite around the scholars' strike to end anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, and police violence on our campuses and off our campuses and in our communities. On September 9th and 10th, we're joining faculty for 2 days of teach-ins, advocacy, and action to oppose the institutional and systematic forms of racism and colonial violence. We know that Black, Indigenous, and racialized students face disproportionate barriers to access to post-secondary education. And as a student movement that fights for education for all, we know that a truly accessible system of post-secondary education includes a system free from police violence, that is free from anti-Black racism and free of anti-Indigenous racism. And student worker solidarity is the way that we're going to win. Student worker solidarity is essential as we work together towards a society free of racist and colonial violence. Today and every day, we are united for a better world for students and working people, because the people united will never be defeated.
The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
Thank you, Kayla. The Socialist Caucus is the main body of the organized left inside the Labour-based New Democratic Party. Eurydice Baumgarten is a tenants' rights activist living in Don Valley West. She is a member of the Ontario Steering Committee of the NDP Socialist Caucus. Welcome, sister.
Hi. Is it all enough for me?
Raise it up. Do you want to raise it up?
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so hi everybody. As Elizabeth said, I'm a member of the Socialist Caucus of the NDP. I live on the Valley West. I used to live in on St. Clair and Young, so I have a different representative who was a person of the NDP. I'm going to talk about this later on, but I would like to start saying that recently in the news we saw that all the 6 policemen that were heavily armed inside the apartment of Regis Paquet were cleared of any wrong.
Shame.
Yeah, they were called by this woman and her family to help, and mysteriously she died. She jumped or fell because there were so many men armed inside her apartment. No, she was an Afro-Canadian and also an Aboriginal woman. She is dead, and nobody is going to pay for it. Nobody is going to be considered guilty of that.
Shame. Shame.
That takes me to another point, that is this. Recently, on the wake of George Floyd in the States, George Floyd killing in the States and other brutality against black people in the United States, there was an upheaval, like a uprising in the world about police brutality and the idea of defunding the police. Some city councillors in Toronto, backed by my party, the NDP, proposed a 10%. 10%. Think about that. 10%. They said defund the police, and then they said 10% cut on police funding. Well, that proposal failed, but I have to tell you, 10% is just a ridiculous proposal.
Shame.
We'll do much better with a 50% cut on this racist institution that is police.
Abolish the police.
That a 50% that should be used to fund social programs so that people would not be profiled, would not be killed because they have mental health problems, would not be considered criminals because they are just poor. So I think that really I'd like to see the NDP to go much farther than asking for 10%.
Abolish the police.
So I think it's really time that we think of like that police as it is should be abolished. My experience with police in any country has never been good. I came from a country where we grew up to be very, very afraid of police. When I came to Canada, people told me, oh no, in Canada it's all different. It's not different if you're black, if you're Aboriginal, if you're an immigrant. It is the same, you know what. Well, there's another thing I'd like to talk to you about, and it is democracy in the NDP. This year, the last fall, the NDP canceled the convention, the federal convention. We should have had in February before COVID. They canceled it and gave no date. They said, oh, we're going to do it in 2021, 2022. Really, that is very anti-democratic. This is not how you do for the people that elect you and put you there. So really, I think we should demand a convention to happen according to federal.
The Constitution.
To federal rules, of the party. The last thing I wanted to say is that I am really appalled by how the NDP supports. I am a Brazilian citizen besides being Canadian, and I am really appalled to see how the NDP supports the liberal foreign policy. They support the attacks on Venezuela. They support Bolsonaro. The attack.
Shame! Racist, sexist, fascist.
A man who is killing. If he is racist and sexist is a terrible thing, but worse than that, he's killing the people of my country of disease. He's killing them by not giving them proper treatment, by not giving them rules for social distancing. Like, so many people died in Brazil because the president refused, and the liberals support it, the NDP says it is okay. So, also their support of the occupation in Palestine.
Shame!
This is a horrible thing. The last thing I want to say, I know my time is finishing, I want to say that I started saying that my ride was the St. Paul's ride. Well, my representative was a person from the NDP. I was very happy to know that, and I said, well, I want to go to the meetings and discuss what we're going to do. Guess what? There's no meetings. There's no meetings for the riding. There's no there's no organisms of base, there's no cells of people that decide what should be done. All is done into cabinets, all is done into offices. You know what? This is so sad. I want democracy. If I am in the NDP, I want my party to represent me and listen to my voice. Yeah. Woo! Thank you.
Give it there a little more. Woo!
Thank you, Eurydice. So now you are all in for a treat. Comrade Y.C. Lee, operatic tenor, will now sing the Italian Workers' Movement anthem, Bandiera Rossa.
Woo!
My dear comrades, friends, I will be singing in Italian, but I would very much like to share the translation with everyone here. So let me just go over the English words. Forward, people, to the rescue. Red flag will triumph. Red flag will be triumphant. Long live socialism and freedom. From the country to the sea, to the mine, to the workshop, those who suffer and hope, be ready. It's the hour of vengeance. Red flag will triumph. Woo! Red flag will be triumphant. Only socialism is true freedom. Bold, conscious, and proud ranks unfurl the red flag in the sun. Workers to the rescue. Red flag will triumph. Red flag will be triumphant. Long live communism and freedom! Woo! So the chorus goes like this, and I would be grateful if you could join me. It goes like this. Bandiera rossa. Repeat after me, please.
Bandiera rossa.
La trionferà.
La trionferà.
That's it. Woo! Okay, let's do it. And I'll be doing 3 verses. 3 verses. Okay, ready? And I don't have a band, so you'll have to be my band. Ready? Avanti o popolo alla riscossa, bandiera rossa, bandiera rossa. Avanti o popolo alla riscossa, bandiera rossa, trionferà. 2, 3, go! Bandiera rossa la trionferà, bandiera rossa la trionferà, bandiera rossa la trionferà, e viva il socialismo e la libertà. Verse 2. Dai campi al mare, alla miniera, all'officina che soffre e spera, sia pronto è l'ora della riscossa, bandiera rossa trionferà, bandiera rossa la trionferà, bandiera rossa la trionferà, bandiera rossa la trionferà, soltanto il socialismo è vera libertà. Verse 3. Falange d'acce, cosciente e fiera, dispiega il sole, rosa bandiera, lavoratori alla riscossa, bandiera rossa trionferà, bandiera rossa la trionferà, bandiera rossa la trionferà, bandiera rossa la trionferà, e viva il comunismo e la libertà!
Thank you, Comrade Y.C. ACORN is the Association of Community. ACORN is the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now. We are pleased to welcome members of ACORN to this rally, and particularly Alejandro Ruiz Vargas, who is the chair at East York ACORN.
So hi everybody, it's really a pleasure to be here, and I really feel so much respect for you right now, because you are here and you can be at home, you know, watching Netflix, I don't know. But you're here, isn't it? You're supporting this, and we need to support each other because we live here and we love this country. This is why we are here. So I am a proud member of ACORN, and we have been working here in Canada since 2004. We had 9 cities and about, no, actually 11 cities now, in 20 neighborhoods that we have been working specifically in housing, affordable housing, healthy homes, fair banking, because you know one of the transactions all over the world that is very expensive is happening here in Canada. Every time we put the bank card in a machine and it is not your bank, it's $3, $3.25. It's a lot of money when you're an OSP or in OW or when you're on low income, simple like that. So we have been working as well in the child care, $10 per month, sorry, $10 a day. This should be $10 a month, but $10 a day, child care, and remittance, and many more. So I invite you that you go to our website and check it out. But I'm going to be very short, and I want to tell you that I don't know, you hear this commercial that say, we are all in this together. Let me tell you, we are all in this together. And I hate it. Sorry, well, maybe I'm too strong, but yes, I hate it. We are not in this together. And every time I see this commercial, I tell my child, we are not in this together. And what she means, mommy, she say, well, because we will be in all this together. We have free internet for all low income. We will be this, and all together we have housing for everyone. We will be in all this together, and we have childcare for everyone. There are people here that has to pay like a double mortgage. It's like a double mortgage when they have to send their kid to childcare, and then they ask why we are poor. Like, what do you mean? I don't have money to send my children to childcare. Well, I cannot work, and I cannot pay the internet, so I cannot work in the internet. Like, what do you mean, why I'm poor? You know? So this is our message. We are not in this together all. So this is why we are inviting you to be close to our campaign that we have been working on it. That is inclusionary zoning. The inclusionary zoning, it will make, it's not a solution for the housing crisis, but it's a tool that the city has been playing with, isn't it? Juggling, but we cannot juggle in these times. We need to do action. So thank you so much. Follow ACORN and follow the
Socialist Action.
The Socialist Action, sorry. And so be united, and don't forget to be united, isn't it? Because this is the most important thing. Thank you, and thank you for all the members of the ACORN that come.
Acorn, 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 acorn. Woo!
Okay, thank you, Alejandro. Okay, our next speaker, Comrade John Wilson, who is a pioneer of the gay rights movement in Ontario and is a leading member of Socialist Action. John is a steering committee member of Queer Ontario, for whom he speaks today.
Hi, everybody. I'm proud to be here to bring solidarity greetings from Queer Ontario to this rally, and we're very happy to be asked to endorse it. First, I want to say a few words about Queer Ontario in case you haven't heard of us.
Speak into the microphone.
Oh, okay. That better? Yeah, okay. Okay, we are the successor organization of CIELGRO, which was the Coalition for Lesbian and Gay Rights in Ontario, which for 40 years fought for queer rights in this province and was instrumental in getting sexual orientation in the Ontario Human Rights Code.
Damn right.
Unlike a lot of other organizations, we still work from a liberationist perspective, updated from the original gay liberation movement. We are very aware of how essential the support of the labor movement has been in the struggles and victories we have won. Special recognition is due to the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, the first major union to support queer rights in Canada. Like most sectors of our population, the vast majority of LGBTQ plus people are from the working class. Labor struggles are our struggles. The same is true of the massive and still growing struggle against racism that promises serious potential in the struggle for fundamental social change. Queer Ontario welcomed and was inspired by the Black Lives Matter intervention into the Pride Parade a few years back, and we support all their demands.
Woo!
The COVID pandemic, as I'm sure you're all aware, has exposed the obscene inequalities in our society. Recently, the Star had reported that the queer population was more affected than most, especially transgender, poor, and Black, Indigenous, and people of color. All of us have hard struggles ahead in this time of social crisis. Together, as the Cubans say, venceremos, we will win.
Thank you, Comrade John. The next speaker is Loretta Fisher, representing Spring Socialist magazine, where she champions defunding police to rebuild safer public services and safer TTC. Yes, she recently spoke on an essay webcast of on the mental health crisis. Today, she will read a couple of her poems. Please welcome Loretta Fisher.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. The first one, what all the rage is. Only doing what's decent can lead to decent work, not prizing profits over people as if money counts first. Working class scraping by, yet we're so overworked. No overtime pay, no benefits, and rarely a perk, especially not a $2 permanent raise from one big corporate jerk. Getting rich mainly by underpaying his workers, no lie, neglects health and safety training so you get injured or die. Tragedies like this happen to workers all the time, and companies don't ever get sued or even fined. Workers trying to recover somehow deemed perfectly fine, now accused of relying on rich taxpayers' charitable graces, as if we're really welfare queens and queue jumpers off to the races. Regarding eligibility for benefits, too many bosses lie to our faces. Low-wage workers are taxpayers too, not just the elite. Good grief. Has one government intelligence agency ever identified the real thief? Not yet, since it's the elite who profit from calling the police, yet our dignity gets stolen under the guise of relief. Workers are dealing with bullying and racism, plus no paid sick days. Working in hospitals, hotels, grocery stores, offices, shelters, and cafes. Construction workers, waiters, cooks, daycare workers, dental assistants. Shouldn't we all bring our petitions for fairness to our elected officials? Asking for decency should not mean risking reprisals and dismissals. Our lives targeted and criminalized. They don't need more tasers or drones or more funding for missiles. They have started to blow us up out of our homes with COVID-19 evictions.
Shame.
Shame. Understand, their enormous police funds are to incarcerate us into prisons. Above guideline increases already attack low and working class visions, but will unite and fight as one union against greedy landlords of apartments and condominiums. Together, standing united, demanding a just transition is what is needed, since government inquiry reports calling for crucial change always go unheeded. Thousands of North Americans hitting the streets for Black Lives Matter and raising minimum wage is proof. Thousands of Canadians of all races marching beside Indigenous youth. Thousands worldwide chanting system change, not climate change. It's because of capitalism we have to fight for decent work, green jobs, police reform, and no more poverty wage. 2020 vision reveals government and corporate corruption laying waste to the entire world's precious resources, including people of all races. Elite greed is ruining the planet. Conglomerate fraud is so outrageous, with bold lies splashed across our corporate-owned newspaper pages. Built-up lies baked into biased systems growing ever more dangerous. Capitalism, stop! Stop eating us and spitting us out. This is what all the rage is. About fake borders and the real hoarders. The elite don't really see the harm and can't perceive racism's hate towards other people with peaceful cultures and traits. They don't get we all live in one world without borders and have a shared fate. Oppression and genocidal decimation eroded the foundation of this long ago free but now stolen Indigenous nation. Colonizers used treaties as a ploy, now pretend reconciliation. Systematically subverted our languages and cultures without hesitation. Full speed ahead with guns blazing, never practiced real democracy. From under the feet of Indigenous people, this lovely land was yanked so violently. Only before colonialism was this land truly glorious and free. It cost the blood of many First Nations people up to this very day. Do you believe this capitalist spree that's made so much headway has now turned us all around and we're heading the wrong way? Wish Indigenous ecological sustainable ways would return to stay? The colonizers' short-sighted fake ownership of all until this date drags us all deeper into one shared fate of a police state.
Shame.
This huge hoarding problem of 1% capitalist architects has the whole hateful system falling down around our necks. Wouldn't you rather have socialism designed to benefit all people? Hell yes! The people as socialists need to intervene and interrupt colonial capitalism and embed fairness into the foundation of all our social systems. Only the people as socialists can fairly distribute food and totally interrupt the way our food system is now dysfunctional in the hands of wealthy grocery store magnates and huge migrant farm bosses who trick workers from everywhere into modern-day slavery.
Shame. Shame.
We as socialists need to interrupt xenophobia and racism and replace the intentionally destructive and deadly systems of incarceration. Police services are funded way over and above, while other social services have been cut and defunded. So how about evening out the funds? Let's make defunding and budget cuts a positive thing for the people for once. It makes sense for our tax dollars to provide funds to humane agencies who are not aiming to kill us. We need to intervene now more than ever, since this government has demonstrated we are open for sickness by not granting any paid sick days for all workers in the middle of this pandemic.
Shame.
We are not open for sickness. We are not disposable. Workers need permanent sick days now.
Thank you so much, Loretta. Our next speaker is Angela Bishop. Represents Green Inspiration Networking for Environmental and Social Justice. She works for the Ontario Clean Air Alliance and is a leading anti-nuclear activist. So please welcome Angela Bishop.
No nukes, no nukes, no nukes, no nukes, no nukes, no nukes.
Happy Labor Day, everyone! What a beautiful day this has turned out to be. I'm so happy to be here with you all instead of at home watching Netflix or something. Riding our bikes. Yay for the bluer bike lanes, hey? Woo! So happy. COVID kilometers are coming out of the woodwork, off the asphalt. I worked on that campaign for many years. Very happy to see that one come to fruition. But I want to talk today a bit about the climate crisis that we're facing in the world and in Canada and in Ontario. You know, I was very happy when Trudeau's government and the whole Parliament in June of 2019 declared a climate emergency in Canada. And you know, the environmental community has been working on that for a couple of decades. We were thrilled when that happened, but unfortunately the rhetoric hasn't quite matched up, or the action hasn't quite matched up with the rhetoric. The very next day, the government announced the purchase of the Trans Mountain Pipeline.
Shame.
So we can't slow down the fight for a renewable future for Canada, and many have said now with COVID, this is a chance in a lifetime, a chance in a generation, a chance in a century to move beyond the fossil fuel era to an era of renewable energy and conservation. That's what the Just Recovery dollars should be going to. No more recovery dollars to propping up oil and gas in this industry. No more being hostage to Alberta and supporting more pipelines and more export of the dirtiest resource on the planet, which is the tar sands. We have, the good news right now is that we have so many alternatives available to us in Canada. The renewables revolution is taking off everywhere in the world at the same time. Because the renewables revolution is taking off, the oil and gas industry is sinking. They've never, the prices are down, the demand is down, no one's buying it. On the west coast of the United States is an armada of hundreds, maybe thousands of ships floating. You can see them from the coast, floating, filled with millions of gallons of oil, because they keep pumping it out and no one's buying it. That's because the world is moving renewable. Meanwhile, the subsidies are still going to save those oil and gas jobs. We need to transition. Now is the time, and we need to be pressuring the federal government, no more dollars to oil and gas, and move to a transition to a renewable future. Meanwhile, here in Ontario, I don't know if you heard about this, but you know, the previous government was phasing out gas. We had gotten it down to just 7% for electricity production, ramping up renewables, wind and solar, ramping up conservation. We'd reduced demand in this province by 10%, while the population increased by 10% at the same time. That's because investments in conservation are lowest cost, most efficient way to reduce demand on oil and gas and other resources. What does Ford do when he gets elected? First thing he does, cancel 758 already signed renewable energy projects. Cancels conservation programs. And cancels negotiations with Quebec to import low-cost, renewable, surplus water power from Quebec that could meet our electricity needs in Ontario. On top of that, he just purchased in the last year 3 aging gas plants because, as I mentioned earlier, oil and gas prices are declining, demand is declining as states around the United States and in Canada are moving towards a renewable future. So to prop up and save the gas industry, Ford purchases 3 aging gas plants and commits to ramping up gas in Ontario by 300% in the next 5 years. On top of it, they're planning to build, Enbridge has applied to build a new pipeline up through Hamilton to import fracked gas from Pennsylvania to meet Ontario's increased demand for gas-fired electricity. When we could instead be importing water power from Quebec, investing in conservation and wind and made in Ontario wind and solar power in Ontario. So shame on the provincial government, shame on the federal government for continuing to prop up an oil and gas industry. On top of it, the Ontario government, Alberta, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, and the federal government are all investing billions of dollars to prop up a sagging nuclear industry which around the world is going bankrupt. Nobody is investing in new nuclear reactors. Ontario is recommitted, doubling down on rebuilding 10 of our aging nuclear reactors. Meanwhile, investing billions of dollars into small modular nuclear reactors, which is a pipe dream decades away. The goal will be to dot the landscape around Canada, to put nuclear reactors around the country that still have no way to solve the waste problem, have dangers of nuclear weapons proliferation, have radioactive releases routinely, and are not wanted by the citizens of Ontario or anywhere in Canada. It's the least popular option to solve our climate crisis. So I've got some leaflets that I'm happy to circulate. Petition OntarioClimateAction.ca. If you sign on, you'll get regular updates on our campaign. We're gunning to phase out gas in Ontario, phase out the nuclear reactors, move to 100% renewable energy future in Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Okay, so our next speaker is Brother Bill Effernan, longtime teacher and international solidarity activist. He's here to share his poem today about Palestine. Brother Effernan. Woo! Woo! Woo!
Thank you. Good afternoon, sisters, brothers, and comrades all. Nice to be here today. Before I start, I just wanted to give a shout out to all of the brothers and sisters here that are holding flags and banners. That's not an easy job. I've done it before, and they're doing it all day, and they're adding a wonderful ambience to this space today. In 2010, I was at the, I should identify, I'm a lifetime member of OECTA Teacher Union, and in 2010 I was with a number of teacher activists and social justice activists in Palestine, Israel. We visited the whole country, exception of Gaza. We couldn't get into Gaza. And as I stood at the base of the wall in Bethlehem, a wall that's as tall as that building over there that domineered the whole landscape and horizon. As I stood at the base of that wall, the inspiration for this poem came. I'd like to give it to you now. It's called Something There Is That Doesn't Love a Wall. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down, down, Down with the separation wall. Up, up, up with a reparation call. A reparation call for all those that suffered the NABCA, suffered the camps, suffered as refugees at home, standing alone, whose land has been pilfered, whose water has been filtered into the hands of the oppressor, who profess some divine right to defend that which has been stolen. Stolen from you with no reciprocal right or rights to right the wrong. Even writs of international law written in your favor, ignored. Even writs that denounce the illegal settlements, yet no settlement of claims or reparation for you. No writs for a return to that which is rightfully yours, your orchards, your farms, your homes, bulldozed and paved over. No writ for a return to dignity, a return to enterprise, a return to home, a return to hope, a return to anything you used to know, anything, something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down, down, down with the separation wall. Before I'd build a wall or fence, I'd ask what I was walling in and walling out, and to whom it might give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down, down, down with the separation wall. Up, 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 with a just and meet reparation call. Viva Palestina!
Viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina!
Woo. Thank you, Bill. That was wonderful. Our next speaker is Comrade Y.C. Lee, who will now speak on behalf of the No Pride in Policing Coalition.
Hi, everyone. I'm extremely upset by the latest news. Did you hear what happened in Brandon, Manitoba just last Friday? A black man, Kevin Taylor, was yelled at by a group of 5 people and then stabbed 5 times. I'm sorry, but this is not the Turtle Island that I signed up for. This is not an example of how we should treat each other. Turtle Island is a place where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. This type of crap has no place in our society. This crap has got to stop right now.
Right now. Right now. Justice now.
Look at what happened here in the streets of Toronto just last week. Last Saturday, in Little Jamaica, by Eglinton Avenue and Oakwood Avenue, 2 gentlemen were arrested by police, and one of the gentlemen was violently attacked and tasered by the brutal cops who in fact instigated the attack. And guess what happened after that? The capitalist press, the mainstream media reported false news to the public, saying that the cops were the victims and not the 2 men.
Shame.
This is totally upside down. This is totally wrong. Don't you see we are living in a state of crisis right now, and that we as activists have a pivotal role in combating the incredible media bias that distorts public opinion. We won't stand for this crap.
Woo!
No Pride in Policing Coalition has never backed down from its demands to defund, disarm, demilitarize, and abolish the police.
Woo!
And by police, we mean all police, all levels of institutional, municipal, provincial, national, statewide police.
Woo!
NPPC, No Pride in Policing Coalition, also envisions creating alternatives. And what must the civil society do to make this happen? 1, we must create crisis intervention and MAD co-lead support teams. We should work with communities to develop models that work for them. Number 2, we must create police-free, community-led, trauma-informed emergency service for mental health, psychiatric distress, and other forms of crisis. Number 3, we must invest in community support for shelters, drop-ins, after-school programming in low-income Black and Indigenous neighborhoods. Number 4, we must create restorative services, mental health services, and community-run health centers. Number 5, we must invest in harm reduction, including safe supply, safe injection, inhalation sites, and invest in harm reduction outreach workers. Number 6, we must establish emergency services for people who have experienced gender-based violence. Number 7, we must adopt the implementation of civilian transportation safety services, and we must provide safer road infrastructure for pedestrians, cyclists, and better public transit, not to mention free public transit. Free public transit. Free public transit.
Free public transit.
Free public transit. Number 8, we must create civilian conflict resolution to replace the policing of minor bylaw infractions. Number 9, we must provide permanent and secure housing for all people who need housing.
Abolish landlords!
We need action during this situation of crisis. We need the influential people in power to be held accountable in creating a just society, a decent society, a free society for all people. All Black lives matter! All Indigenous lives matter! All people of color, yes, people of color, our lives matter! So my friends, if you're not familiar with our demands, then it is imperative that you go to sign our statement of demands. Go check out our website, noprideinpolicing.ca, noprideinpolicing.ca. You should also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. NPPC is committed to taking our demands to the next level, far and wide. Our next action will involve several of our core members taking part in scholarstrike.ca on September 9th and 10th. Go check out scholarstrike.ca for more information. And it's a very unique and necessary action in which academics all across Canada will hold public teach-ins, free public teach-ins on police brutality and anti-Black violence in our communities. Then on September 20th, NPPC's Beverly Bain will be interviewed at Trinity St. Paul's United Church. Beverly will be giving an educational talk on, guess what? Abolishing the police! NPPC also has an interview coming up that will be published in the Eye Opener publication affiliated with Ryerson University. So, go to the eyeopener.com later this month for a feature article on NPPC. Just remember that us folks here at NPPC, we will never stop calling for immediate action. Defund, disarm, dismantle, abolish, 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 defund, disarm, dismantle, abolish.
Thank you so much, YC. That also reminds me, maybe people already remembered, but yesterday was the 25th anniversary of the murder of Dudley George. Remember that? Remember that? Well, I'd like to send a message to his family that, you know, the struggle continues, and we're in the struggle with them. It's not over. We will win. Our next speaker, well, couldn't make it because of a family emergency, but it was supposed to be Jahan Nur Umanan. You'll kill me for the pronunciation of his name, I'm sure. But anyway, he's from Fight Back, and Fight Back did endorse the rally, but because of a family emergency, he couldn't come. Okay, our next speaker is Sebastian Mendoza Price. Helped to organize the recent rally to promote Little Jamaica community at Eglinton and Oakwood, where during a minor incident, the police massively and brutally intervened. Today, Sebastian speaks for the Latin America and Caribbean Solidarity Network. Sebastian.
So, my name is Sebastian. I am from the Latin American and Caribbean Solidarity Network. I also do other organizing, as was mentioned. I have worked with Reclaim, Rebuild Eglinton West to fight against gentrification in the historic Little Jamaica. I've also been working for a couple of months now in St. Jamestown to fight against displacement and also build up mutual aid networks so that tenants living in poverty during this time, especially folks who are status insecure, have all of their needs met and that nobody gets left behind. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what Latin American and Caribbean Solidarity Network does, which is kind of my organizing home. We're a group of Latinx activists who support local and international activists by using our network to bring attention to both global and domestic struggles by mobilizing our communities. We support, like I said, we support international and domestic organizing. So just as much work as we do in Toronto, we also speak out against international issues like the coup in Bolivia, the attempted coup in Venezuela, and bringing these issues to light by amplifying the voices of Latinx activists in those countries and letting people here know what is actually going on and not the mainstream media's manufactured message of what's going on. Now, most of y'all probably know why this is important, but I'm going to talk a little bit why it is important to fight for Latin America in the Canadian context in this country, because our economy here in Canada is made up of the blood of Black and Indigenous Latino people across the continent. We are a resource extraction economy. 70% of mining companies are traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And every stock that somebody has, every job that somebody has, if you go farther and farther down the line, there is probably the blood of Indigenous families in Latin America, of Indigenous women and children in Latin America. And this is the reality of living in a settler colonial state. So we're all here, and we all come from very different parts of the world, from very different contexts. Some of us have actually been affected by Canada's imperialism, but now we're here and we have to fight to dismantle and abolish this system so that nobody anywhere in the world is ever hurt again by the deadliness of settler colonialism. And while we're fighting, we should know that it doesn't have to be this way. This system does not have to exist simply by virtue of existing. We can abolish tradition. We can make new histories. We are in an age where everything is up for discussion and all terms can be renegotiated. Youth with and without previous organizing experience are rising up and mobilizing both before the pandemic and during the pandemic. Wet'suwet'en, Black Lives Matter, tenants movements. The work that I've done has been mostly in doing occupations. I've worked with Afro-Indigenous Rising, was there for 3 weeks occupying Nathan Phillips Square and then moving on to occupy Dufferin Grove Park. I've worked with Rebuild, Reclaim Eglinton West, and we occupied the block and 70 police officers showed up to destroy our peaceful rally. Shame. They tased a Black man with mental health issues. Shame. There's youth work being done in Latin America right now that is of a similar vein. You know, I was reading an article about a 16-year-old TikToker called Jeronimo Martinez who is doing Marxist education, using social media to educate people in his continent about Marxism. There is La Red Comunitaria Trans that is fighting for trans sisters in far-right Colombia. And there's the fight against femicide in Mexico and confronting patriarchal colonial culture. And there are indigenous Bolivians blocking trading points in cities in a fight for democracy. Woo! It is imperative and really, really important that we start getting off our butts and going into the streets, that we start occupying public space, that we start occupying private space, that we start reclaiming capital. And it is imperative that the labor movements, that these unions and people who are members of unions and left-wing institutions, political parties like the NDP, that they also rise up and mobilize, that they join these youth in the front lines, or they will get left behind. Institutions, left-wing institutions, not only unions, but also progressive NGOs, we'll call them progressive, political parties like the NDP, they have not been doing enough to show up for this movement. They have not been out there in the streets with us. And the youth of this generation are saying, all right, cool, y'all not gonna join us? Then we're gonna build our own thing. So if you are in one of these institutions, if you work for an organizing group that has federal funding, if you work for a union, if you organize within the NDP, stand up for your racialized co-workers. Stand up for racialized people across this country. Do not say that because you maybe negotiated a good deal, or that you're getting paid well, or that your union takes care of you as a white person, that you got your needs met and that's it. No. You gotta go fight for everybody in Turtle Island. Labor demands to societal transformations. Don't just say, well, we want this, we need our wages, whatever. Obviously, all that is really important. But start saying, no, we're not showing up to work unless the government starts guaranteeing indigenous sovereignty, until this corporation gets the fuck off of land in Latin America and gives it back to indigenous people instead of extracting it for resources. Start tying your demands to defunding the police, to abolishing the police. Start tying your demands to make sure that if you're a teacher, and I know teachers and students are going back to school next week, say, no, not only are we not going to work until these COVID conditions are met, but we're also not going to go to work as long as there's no eviction moratorium, because we shouldn't be teaching students who don't even have a safe place to stay, because that's going to impede their education. So, and if you see resistance within these systems, I'm sure a lot of us as radicals have fought with the NDP, have fought with our labor unions, etc., etc. If you are seeing confrontation and you're seeing pushback, abolish that fucking system and make a new one. Abolish hierarchies within unions. No more hierarchies within unions. It all belongs to the people, to all people. No more hierarchies within political parties. No more sprawling bureaucracies that tell you what you can and can't fight for. If they're saying that, abolish the motherfuckers and build something new. Thank you very much for listening.
Just tell it how it is. Okay. Brethren, comrades, Sam Cheadle is an OPSU activist, Ontario Public Sectors Union, activist in the Ontario Liquor Board sector. He is on the steering committee of the Workers' Action Movement. Please warmly welcome Brother Sam.
Hey all, happy Labor Day. It'll be hard pressed to top the speeches that just transpired, but I'm just going to speak quickly on the Workers' Action Movement Caucus and our work in the Ontario Labour Movement. WAM is a multi-tendency militant rank-and-file class caucus within the Ontario Labour Movement, starting in the Ontario Public Service Employees Union. WAM stands up for members like Sandra Griffith Bonaparte, who has been viciously smeared in her union in the Ottawa region. This case is typical. Thanks. These cases are typical of the harassment rank-and-file activist experience in the labour movement. And to read more about Sandra's case, you can go to the wham.ca on our blog. I want to speak more about recently WHAM developed a statement in terms of abolishing police and cops of the labour movement. But as we know, there's a long history of oppression by security forces in the workers' movement. These battles are etched in working-class history and forged new frontiers, like the Winnipeg General Strike, the Battle of Blair Mountain, the Oshawa General Strike, the Queen Park Police Riot in 2001. Whenever labor has pushed the bounds of neoliberal respectability in the fight for their members and wider working class, there have been threats of jail time, actual jail time for trade union leaders, and police violence for the rank and file. Recent examples include Jean-Claude Perrault, leader of CUP W, Sean O'Flynn of OPSU, and the recent uses of the bosses laws to thwart the collective bargaining processes of CUP W and Unifor Local 594 cases in point. When CUP W was turning up the heat in their employer last winter in November of 2018, set to force the employer to table by Christmas, what did Trudeau do? He stepped in and legislated the workers back to work. Cross pickets shot up in several Canada Post holding facilities in which cops worked overtime to shut those down. Intense police action rained down and locked out members of Unifor Local 594, co-op refinery workers in Saskatchewan. The striking workers faced off for months on end in the bitter cold against the Regina Police Force, working in tandem with the employer and even aided by far-right thugs. Going forward, we have a world to win. And the recent actions of the OPSU members of the Kenora Jail are commendable. But in this instance, we can see we are part of the problem in that we create spaces that are unsafe for those the state locks up, as well as unsafe for the corrections employees involved. This incident again highlights the need for prison abolition and a move toward community-based justice, which includes restoration and mediation models. This also ties in with the decriminalization of all drugs and the taking of the oversight of drugs out of the criminal justice system and into the health system. For members of workers' unions looking to be accomplices in the seeking of justice for those marginalized, attacked by the system, supporting prison abolition is crucial. This includes for trade union members who work behind the prison walls. Supporting prison abolition is to only make these jobs not only safer, but the fight against the appearance of corporate mega prisons that eat away our communities and attack our black and brown youth, and as well as poor people. If you give a damn about your fellow members of the working class, you will support prison abolition. Woo! Working within the overall framework of defunding, disarming, dismantling, and abolishing, the Workers' Advocate Movement supports the call for prison abolition, and we implore the Corrections Division of OPSU to also adopt this vision, showing they're on the side with the movement for Black Lives and police defunding in North America. Thank you.
Okay, so before we go to our singer to wrap this up, I want to thank everybody for coming, especially our speakers. Thank you so very, very much. This has been a great Labor Day rally. And if you would like to visit our literature table, there it is, or you can get a subscription to our newspaper, which is $25 a year, which will be delivered to your home, courtesy of postal workers, of course. And if you would like to talk to us, you can always call 647-986-1917. That's 647-986-1917. Or you can go online to socialistactioncanada@gmail.com. Okay, so in the meantime, folks, please stay safe, healthy, and active. And now we're going to wrap this up with Y.C. Lee leading us in the world's revolutionary anthem, the Internationale. Woo!
Thank you, Elizabeth. So for those of you who don't know the words, I'll just recite them now. And I'll do 3 verses, one in Spanish, one in French, and then the last verse in English. So the last verse we'll all sing together. Yeah, it goes like this. Arise, ye prisoners of starvation. Arise, ye wretched of the earth. For justice thunders condemnation. For a better world's in birth. No more traditions, chains shall bind us. Arise, ye slaves, no more in thrall. The earth shall rise on new foundations. We have been not, we shall be all. 'Tis the final conflict, let each stand in its place. The international working class shall be the human race. Arriba los pobres del mundo, en pie los esclavos sin pan, y gritemos todos unidos, viva la internacional. Removamos
quitemos todas las trabas que nos impiden nuestro bien. Cambiemos el mundo de base, hundiendo el imperio burgués. Agrupémonos todos en la lucha final y se alcen los pueblos por la Internacional. Agrupémonos todos en la lucha final y se alcen los pueblos con valor por la Internacional. Debout les damnés de la terre, debout les forçats de la faim. La raison tourne son cratère, c'est l'éruption de la fin. Du passé faisant table rase, vous les slaves, debout, debout. Le monde va changer d'avance, nous ne sommes rien sans rien. C'est la lutte finale, groupons-nous et demain l'Internationale sera le genre humain. C'est la lutte finale, groupons-nous et demain l'Internationale sera le genre humain. Arise, ye prisoners of starvation, arise, ye wretched of the earth, for justice thunders condemnation, for a better world in birth. No more traditions change shall bind us, arise, ye slaves, no more enthralled. The earth shall rise on new foundations. We have been not, we shall be all. 'Tis the final conflict. Let each stand in his place. The international working class shall be the human race. 'Tis the final conflict. Let each stand in his place. The international working class shall be the human race.
Thank you, YC. That was wonderful. So thanks again for coming, everybody, and happy Labor Day.
Join us here today. Pretty radical Labor Day. We'll see you all next time.